The Trump administration is ending the temporary protected status of Somali migrants. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem telling Fox News, temporary means temporary. Country conditions in Somalia have improved to the point that it no longer meets the law's requirement for temporary protected status. Further, allowing Somali nationals to remain temporarily in the United States is contrary to our national interests. We are putting Americans first. Here to break down what all of that means is the Hill's Deputy Managing Editor, Sarakshi Rai. Hey, Sarakshi, so first, explain what temporary protected status is and what this means for the Somalis who no longer have it.
That's right, Drew. So what we do know is that this temporary protective status is for those nationals from countries where there is strife, civil unrest, terrorism ongoing, and there are certain countries that are designated as TPS countries, which allow the nationals of those countries to come to the U.S. and seek asylum. Now, we know that Somalia has had temporary protected status, at least here in the U.S., for the last few decades, but that is all now changing for thousands of Somali nationals who currently live in the United States, Drew.
According to the Congressional Research Service, in early 2025, there were around 700 Somali nationals with temporary protected status, though immigration officials within the Trump administration claimed on Fox News that the number is actually over 2,000. Either way, this is clearly going to be impacting hundreds of Somalis who live in this country right now. Do we know how many of them there are in Minnesota? Of course, that is where there's been this ongoing controversy over fraud allegations involving some Somali immigrants.
That's right, Drew. So we don't have exact figures, but we do know, like those figures showed earlier, there are about 2,400 Somali nationals in the United States who have the temporary protected status. We also know that there are about 1,400 Somali nationals who currently have pending TPS status. So this all means that they're all going to have to leave the country by this deadline of mid-March that the Secretary Noem has set. And what we do know is that, this comes amid this clash that the administration is having with Minnesota, with these fraud allegations that have been taking place with Somali nationals in this very blue state. And so what we're seeing right now is that for at least 3,000 of these Somali nationals who already have a temporary protected status or pending temporary protected status applications, they're all going to have to figure out, how they exit this country, because the secretary is very clear, in her statement to Fox News saying that temporary means temporary, Drew.
Secretary Noem claims that conditions in Somalia have improved enough for Somalis to return. Is that true? What do we know about the state of the country right now?
That's right. So there are some conflicting statements from the Trump administration, right? We know that President Trump has previously referred to the country as, in his words, garbage. He said that, all they're good for is piracy in statements made in December. And what we do know is that there's still the U.S. State Department still has a travel ban in place. On their website as of this morning, if you go and look up the country Somalia, it says do not travel due to threat of kidnapping, piracy, and all other kind of civil unrest issues as well, Drew. So while Kristi Noem is saying that conditions in the country have improved enough for those Somali nationals to go home and to end the temporary protected status for Somali nationals in the United States, the State Department saying, to Americans at least, it's still a do not travel country, Drew.
All this leads to a bigger question. Is the Trump administration actually allowed to do this, or could we see the courts end up intervening here?
That's right. So we have seen the Trump administration kind of go ahead and remove the TPS protected status, the temporary protected status, for a bunch of different countries already. They did that for Venezuela recently as well. And we've seen certain moves by civil rights advocates to kind of go in and challenge the president on this. So we could see another legal battle over this issue with the Somali temporary protected status again. But the administration adamant so far that they've removed the TPS for multiple countries, and they plan on removing more. They've always said that this has been misused by previous administration, and that if the country conditions have improved significantly, then those nationals should be stripped of their TPS and sent back to their home country, Drew.
The president and his administration have become increasingly antagonistic to Somalis in the U.S. Could this be seen as the culmination of that rhetoric?
That's right. So certain Democrats like Ilhan Omar obviously accusing the president of playing politics with the nationals of Somalia, given his previous statements, and given that, there's been this battle over these fraud allegations in certain states that the Trump administration has been highlighting as well. But all in all, this has long been hinted at by the Trump administration. The president kind of hinted at removing TPS for Somali nationals earlier this year, and as well as last year in previous comments to the media. And what we're seeing is that they're just following through on what the president has said before, Drew.
Okay, we will leave it at that. Sarakshi Rai, thanks so much for your time.